Success is a series of failures, one failure after another, without the loss of enthusiasm.
Amazing. So going through Naveed Central. What's up, guys? It's your boy Naveed Central, back with another amazing mukbang. And today, guys, I am Afrikana on Lady Bull Road, and I'm super excited because I have an absolutely incredible individual who I've looked up to for many years since childhood, guys. This guy is an absolutely incredible person. He is a criminal barrister, guys, a massive criminal lawyer around the UK, and he also has been a counsellor on many occasions and will be running for counsellor again. Guys, this guy has an incredible story, and not only has he done these amazing things in his career, he's also had a massive body transformation as well, guys. He's lost a massive amount of weight, and we're going to speak about that as well, guys. Stay tuned. But listen, guys, without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Barrister AYOUB Khan.
How you doing, Islam?
How you doing? Welcome, Islam. I'm amazing. Thanks. Just to let everyone know, we've got a massive buffet of items here. There's so much food here, guys. We've got the island fish and chips. We've got the mutton. But guys, there's like so many things here that if I name everything, you're going to be here all day, and we don't want to keep them waiting for that long. We've got mac and cheese. We've got chicken. We've got steaks. We've got chicken, guys. We've got like mutton curry in like bread. We've got chicken wings. We've got chicken burgers. We've got halloumi fries. Guys, there's so much stuff to name. But let's start a little, boy.
I think let's get tucked in, you know.
And then let's go.
Always start small. Right.
So, yeah, man. Barrister shop. Just to let you know, there'll be times in this video when you might mention something, and then I will speak. But that's in order for you to have a chance to eat, because I don't want to constantly bombard you with questions and then you go and eat no food. Does that make sense?
That's right.
So yeah, man, I'm excited to have you here today. I want you to tell us about your story. What made you, actually before I even say what made you become a barrister, what's the difference between a barrister and a solicitor?
It's all sort of the same thing now, but historically, solicitors would generally prepare a case. Barristers are the advocates. They are the ones that go into court and essentially fight in front of a jury or mitigate in front of a Crown Court judge. Okay. It's changed now because, as you know, solicitors can also apply for higher rights, which allows them to appear in Crown Courts also. But there is a distinction. Barristers have specifically been trained to be advocates, and so that's the stark difference. Solicitors are generally known to attend police stations and are essentially the backbone, where barristers appear and fight the case in the Crown Court before juries.
Okay,
that's the main difference.
Okay, so what you're saying, mainly like in terms of criminal law, the solicitor goes to the police station. He's the one who speaks to the defendant first, and the barrister is the one who will speak at Crown Court, for example, in terms of defending or prosecuting the client, yeah?
That's right.
Amazing. So, what made you choose the barrister route rather than the solicitor route?
I think it really comes down to when I first went into law. I wasn't my first degree, law.
Really?
No. My first degree was in science. I love science. So my first degree was in chemistry.
No way!
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah, and after my first degree, I decided to do a master's in engineering.
Really?
And after doing my master's, back in 1998, there was a massive drive for software developers. Okay. And my first job in Birmingham was an IT consultant. So nothing to do with chemistry, nothing to do with engineering, but just IT. There was a massive drive for IT consultants with an amazing salary for graduates, and so I jumped at it and decided to take the job.
Okay.
But after a few years, I decided I couldn't sit in front of a computer punching in code. It was just simply not for me, and I thought to myself, what sort of career would I like to get into? I know nowadays young people always ask, what do you want to do when you grow up?
Yeah.
With the Asian families, it's generally, you got to be a doctor, you got to be an engineer, or you got to be a lawyer. Some of the high earning professions, but I didn't have that real focus. So when I did my IT and worked for a couple of years, I thought, gosh, I can't sit in front of a computer. So I decided to take up law part-time.
Okay.
So I did that part-time, and these chomps are amazing. Amazing.
The food, delicious, man. Really tasty. I'm watching them as well. Yeah. Like I've never had tea before. I'm actually happy on. Yeah.
Very nice, succulent. So I decided to do law part-time, but that was after I watched the O.J. Simpson trial.
O.J. Simpson, yes. He got done for murdering his wife. He never got done. He got away murdering his wife.
He got acquitted, and I find it fascinating because I watched that trial.
I think he did it.
I think everybody knows that he did it. But what I found amazing was the fact that with all of the evidence, he was acquitted by the jury. So whilst the decision was morally wrong, legally it was correct in terms of the evidence.
Yeah, it did really well.
And so that's the reason why I went into law. I just found it fascinating. I watched the lawyers performing trial. It was the first, or one of the first trials that were broadcast on air. Real courtroom drama. It wasn't a movie or a documentary. It was real, raw courtroom drama. And I found it fascinating. I thought, this is something which I'd love to do. Stand up in front of people and articulate and present cases, and I just found it really appealing, and that's the reason why I went into law.
Okay, amazing, man. Especially coming from like a deprived area. Like, how did you even get into education? Because in them days, a lot of people but you grew up in Aston, right?
I did.
A lot of people were getting involved in drug dealing and something. Especially in them days, it was hardcore. So what made you actually choose education in the first place?
I think it's a combination. Parental guidance, very important. My mother was always constantly at it. You need to go through education. And I think, when we look at the first generation that arrived in this country, our fathers were all very, very hard working labourers. They worked in steel factories, paper mills, and they gave us an opportunity to have a better life. And in this country, we're so fortunate, certainly back then when education was free, and that was the main drive, your parental support, saying focus on education, because when you grow up, you don't want to be working in a factory, or you want to make something of this opportunity. And so it was that constant information. I mean, we were 8 brothers, 4 sisters, very large family, living in a 3-bedroom house. It wasn't easy, but alhamdulillah, each one of us has managed to achieve something in life.
MashaAllah, man. That's amazing, man. And so parental guidance was key for you, and I think that's what helped in terms of being a driving force. When I speak to you, I feel like I have to be more eloquent, guys. Yes, so you might see me articulating certain words because that's how I am. Because I like to adapt to the situation, because I've noticed you're well spoken.
Well, I can tone down as well. I'm a homie, from Aston. So you can take me out of Aston, but you can't take Aston out of me either.
I love that. So, in terms of getting involved in law, transitioning from chemistry to law, for example, was it tough?
I didn't find it tough. The one thing which I realised, you've got to enjoy what you're doing, and if you enjoy what you're doing, the more you learn, the more you want to get into it. And I remember when I did my examinations, it was something which I was looking forward to. Sometimes when you do examinations, you feel a little reluctant.
Yeah.
You feel under a lot of pressure. But I was standing outside the examination room saying, when can I go in? Because I want to.
Really?
Yeah. So it's just, you've got to enjoy what you're doing. That's important, because don't forget, work and being employed is going to take up most of your life, if not a substantial amount.
Yeah.
And if you're not enjoying what you're doing, what's the point?
I think that's an issue that, like, some people, like, you know, like in Oxford Uni, for example, I've noticed, like, they say a lot of people do, not a lot, but there's a high percentage in the community that kids commit suicide because they can't get the grade that they want, because they've got the family pressure that, oh, you have to do this, and they can't turn around and tell the family, oh, I didn't want to do this course, I didn't want to be a doctor or an engineer. And I feel it's true what you're saying, that when you have a passion for something, you can do it easily. When you haven't got a passion for it, it's stressful. Right?
Yeah.
And you've got to see yourself doing it throughout your whole life. Right?
And I think it's important that, you know, obviously we've had this traditional background where families are always, or parents are always dictating that, you know, these are the sort of limited professions you should enter. But in reality, there's a whole spectrum of professions out there, and we've got some real talent, you know, certainly in inner city areas. And it's just nurturing that talent and providing the opportunities in order for, you know, young people to be able to pursue something they want and enjoy. There's such a selection here. I don't know where to pick next.
So much really. The chicken's really good. I like that curry thing, you know.
I'll try that in a bit.
Definitely try that.
But I want to try the fish.
Oh, yeah.
You got to try fish and chips.
No, it's lovely. Their fish and chips is banging. I didn't even know what they do fish and chips here. Only found out when I came here. Taste that, you're gonna love it. It's nice, isn't it?
Try it with tartar sauce.
Nice.
Real nice.
Real nice. I wasn't expecting it to be that good. I thought this place only does chicken, but now I found out they do a lot more when I came here. But yeah, so obviously you became a lawyer. To become a barrister, you have to get involved in the Inns of Court, for example, yeah? So how does that work? So you get your law degree.
Once you get your law degree,
Yeah.
then you have two choices. Either becoming a solicitor or becoming a barrister. And I remember asking my teacher, my law teacher, I said, what do you recommend, you know? And she said, AYOUB, don't think about the barrister. That's a very tough area. It's not something that everybody can get into. And I'll never forget it, one of the quotes that I heard. They said the bar is like, and the bar being not the public house, I'm talking about the bar when you study law and want to become a barrister. And she said, the bar's like the Ritz Hotel. The doors are open to all, but only a selected few will ever get in. And to an extent, that was true back then. I know that now it's a little different with equalities and you know, the profession trying to encourage you know, people from ethnic minorities to participate. But back then, you know, she would discourage me in a very positive sense, because I think at that time she felt you could spend a lot of time, energy, finances, and find yourself in a position where you could never actually practice as a barrister.
I think I watched the podcast the other day. It spoke about, you know, successful guy speaker, and he's speaking about a guy called Tom Billy, you know, entrepreneur, and he goes, sometimes people in life, maybe family and friends, they will tell you certain things that will be negative towards your success, but they don't mean it in a bad way.
No.
From their perspective, they're doing a good thing by warning you, but really they're only limiting you based on their own beliefs, not based on what your beliefs are. Yeah. So I feel like that's what was happening there. She was probably telling you because maybe she couldn't become a barrister, so she wasn't telling you in a bad way, but she was like, look,
I think she was looking at what the likelihood of someone who's going to be competing against the elite class. So you're talking about sons and daughters of judges, Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial, you know, high top spec universities, and she was looking at the probability of you succeeding.
She was looking out for you as well, so that you don't be like, just a moment, trying to grab this chicken. So you don't be disheartened if you don't get in. Does that make sense?
Well, I wasn't. I mean, you got to take constructive criticism or any criticism in a particular way just to. I mean, I'm not saying that there's people out there which won't hate on you, because there are. But that's where you need to understand the person you're dealing with. If that person is someone who's giving you guidance, doesn't necessarily mean that guidance is always going to be right, because here I am today, having qualified at the bar, having gone through all the hurdles which were before me, and alhamdulillah, with the blessings, no doubt, of my parents and family and the Almighty, just putting me in the right direction. And I'm a qualified barrister, and I think had I taken that advice, I wouldn't be here where I am today.
So then you got to go with your gut instinct. You haven't tried that?
No, I want to try the prawns. Where are the prawns?
Oh, this one. You're going to love them. Are some prawns there, hello?
The prawns. Yeah. These are, this is a prawn. Yeah.
They're really good, well. Guys, items. My favourite is so many items in this, man. Oh, you know what? What is this? It was pasta. It was coconut pasta. I'm going to try a little bite of that. But, before we move on a little bit, I just want to tell you about any failures or obstacles you came across when you were en route, maybe as a lawyer, on your journey to where you are now, or on your journey of becoming a lawyer. So can you ever think of any major situation in your life, even if it weren't as a lawyer, or any part of your life where you were like struck and you didn't know whether you're going to be able to overcome it, or you knew that you'd be able to overcome it, but it was a tough position to be in?
I think life in general, you will come across hurdles, and you'll come across situations where you don't know whether you'll overcome them, and to an extent, I think it really is down to what kind of person you are. Are you someone that is willing to chuck in the towel, or are you going to be someone that, no matter what the odds are, focus on what your objective is, what your aim is, and try to meet that? I mean, sometimes even the impossible becomes possible, and that, for me, came to fruition. I would never think in a million years that when I look back at my life and think where I come from, Aston, one of the most deprived areas in the whole country. That's how, that's stats. That's not me telling you, that's the stats. And coming from a background where my father was just a farmer back in this, when he arrived in this country, he was just working in factories. The opportunity which we were able to grasp and educate and get somewhere in life, that's something which I think was probably one of the biggest obstacles, because when you look at it and you think about it, our parents generally back in 1970s, 1980s were more focused on earning a decent living, looking after the children, and that was it. There was no real ability to sort of, show you what education is about, certainly if they're not educated. And so for me, that was one of the biggest obstacles. In law, getting a pupillage was probably the biggest obstacle. But, alhamdulillah, I was blessed. There was a big case that I did involving election fraud. And I was reading at the bar at the time. And I went in front of some of the most senior judges in this country. And when I came to do my interview during pupillage, the chambers weren't really interested in my legal knowledge. They were more interested about, you weren't even qualified as a barrister, but you were appearing in front of some of the most senior judges in this country. How did you feel like? Were you under pressure? Were you nervous? And how did it feel? Well, when you know that you're right and you're fighting for a just cause, you'll be surprised. You don't hesitate. You don't have that sort. Sometimes when I go into court now, you'll have nerves. You'll have nerves in how am I going to persuade this jury into my line of thinking. How am I going to address the judge in relation to this application? But when I was doing this election petition in front of these high court judges, none of that was present. because I knew I was right and I was fighting for a just cause, and that nervousness just, simply fades away. So, was in prison.
Interesting, man. That's amazing, man. Like, I feel like you're quite someone who can overcome like tough obstacles, like as you mentioned. Like, sometimes some people are like gifted, and I feel like you've got that gift that you're someone who can overcome obstacles easily. The way you speak about obstacles, the way you put them, is the fact that you can see that are difficult, but you don't allow you seeing that are difficult to overcome like your mind and think that, oh, I can't do it. You're more like, no, hold up, I know it's going to be difficult, maybe for most people, but I'm going to do it because of that reason, right? And I respect that, man. And obviously from your legal career you've dealt with many cases, I imagine, right? Before we move on to obviously what else you've done, what was one of the highest profile cases would you say for yourself that you did?
The thing is, I've done so many, and any serious case that you're involved in will hit headlines.
Right.
Interestingly enough, I think some of the terrorism cases.
Okay. So you dealt with them cases?
Yeah, they were high profile.
Okay.
Which is interesting, really, because in the current climate, where we've got the government talking about what's happening in Ukraine and people wanting to participate, on one view, participating in that sort of military action, you can be caught out by the Terrorism Act. And sometimes you do wonder about some of the hypocrisy that we learn about in the media, which I'm afraid is something that we live with. It's nothing to do with law, but just general observation. That's one of the reasons why I'm keen with politics. It's about looking at some of the policies which are being driven, some of the hypocrisy that we get, and being able to stand for the voiceless. People are not in a position where they could articulate or drive forward agendas which impact them on a daily basis.
Interesting. You know what? It's very true what you just said there, because there is a lot of hypocrisy in the media, especially in terms of, like, for example, the Terrorism Act, as you said. Like, I don't want to delve into it too much, but obviously if a Muslim was to say they wanted to go and fight in certain countries, for example, even if they had no terrorist kind of like ideology, it was just because their family was there being attacked, they might get arrested or locked up for terrorism. Whereas
many people have just simply gone on to do good humanitarian work. They've been caught by the act. And one of the reasons why I enjoy doing defence work is because there's this assumption that just because you sit in that dock, you must be guilty, and that's far from the truth. Far from the truth.
I hear that. So, in terms of you have an amazing career as a lawyer, you've also been a counsellor, and you'll be running for counsellor again right now, yeah?
I am, yes.
So that's one of the reasons why I've got you here today as well, because not only you don't want to hear about your legal career, but I wanted to speak about how life was as a counsellor initially, and what made you want to go back to it right now.
Well, the reason why I became a counsellor was none other than the invasion into Iraq. Back in 2003, in fact 2002 onwards, the West launched an attack on Saddam Hussein and Iraq based on a fact which they were suggesting Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. I felt so passionately about that because it just felt that this was something that was unfounded, and the Liberal Democrats were the only party that opposed the invasion of Iraq. And people in the community said, look, we should take a stance. How do we do it? And a brother called Saeed approached me and said, look, you're educated. If educated young people are not prepared to take a stand, what hope does the community have? You've grown in this area, you live in this area, you understand the sentiments of the community. And if you're not prepared to participate, then what hope do we have as a community? And so I stood as a Liberal Democrat candidate and I won.
And so, you know, guys, Saeed, Uncle Saeed is actually one of my uncles, which is mad, isn't it? Yeah?
Well, there you are.
We've grown up in the same area. You might not don't want to mention it, but you know, a big shout out to Uncle Saeed. So basically, I didn't know that. He told you to do it.
He was the driver for my political career.
And then what happened within your career?
And then I won. And when I won in 2003, obviously, I talked about the atrocities in Iraq, but being a local councillor, you know, it was more to do with local issues.
Okay, yeah.
And so for 10 years, I've been a councillor. I was a councillor for Aston Ward.
Okay.
And I did, you know, in terms of work, helping the community in any way I could. Often seeing people in the early hours, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, people would come knocking my door. I live local. I've always lived in Aston. I still live in Aston because I think it's important to have role models in Aston as well, because a lot of people tend to do well and then move out. That's the first thing they do. And you know, we've got a massive family. In fact, the whole community is a family. And so I've done a lot of talks in local schools about, you know, how you can become a success through education, through business, because we have high crime rates, and sometimes, you know, young people want to have a quick fix.
Yeah, right.
They want a sporty car. They want to have a luxury lifestyle, and they're easily driven into the wrong arena. And unless we retain good role models in the community, you know, the young people may think that there's no light at the end of the tunnel. And you know, through my political career, that was one thing which I was advocating constantly. You know, talking to young people. You know, and one of the biggest concerns I was getting was that there's very little in terms of opportunities, and that's another big agenda. And that's one of the reasons why I'm coming back into politics, because I think, you know, one of the issues is opportunities for the young. Little point in young people getting qualifications and then having barriers because of, you know, equality issues or discrimination issues, you know.
I respect that. So you're basically going back to that position because, well, it's always been your motivation to be in that position, to give back to your own community. Because it's true what you're saying, like, guys, really and truly, you're a barrister, you've made, mashallah, a lot of money, you've done really well, and, you know, you could have easily just moved out of Aston, which is the truth, right, and just lived off a nice life, right here.
That is true.
Elsewhere, you decided to still be a councillor in the area to give back now, because it's not about the money, right? Because you, like, guys, you know, sometimes people will become councillors, etc., to get money, but you gotta understand that this individual here, he's a barrister already, he's been a councillor, for example, like, he's already had that council role, so he's not doing it to become a councillor so that he can get an extra bit of money, because he's already, mashallah, you've done well, he's already had the role, so he's coming back because you're seeing how infected the community is getting with criminal activity, etc. And that's where we have common ground, bro. Like,
I think it's the actual opposite. I actually lose money. I actually lose money becoming a councillor. But sometimes you have to think about, you know, the afterlife and what you can do for the community. The prayers that I gain from people, just you know, elderly people that you may have assisted. And I think, you know, life has to be, you know, balanced with death. You know, you have to always think about what will come of you afterwards. You know, as a Muslim, I constantly on a daily basis think about my actions and think about, you know, what am I doing to assist someone? Am I assisting someone? You know, and that plays in my mind a lot.
I hear that, so like religion plays a part in your role, and I hear that. And from our conversation, I feel as if what you've been saying is even your role as wanting to make equality, as we term, is in terms of upholding, like, and making the community and others realize that Islam is a beautiful religion, right? And it's about giving back, and I respect that. And what advice would you have for the youth out there currently right now, like, who are perhaps on that path, the wrong path, for example, or maybe are kind of diverting into that path, but aren't already there yet, or maybe have got involved and they want an easy way out? Because I've had messages from people, bro, and they've said, look, I've watched your videos and, you know, I'm on the wrong path, but I just want to know how to get out of it, and etc. What would you say, man? Like,
I think ultimately there's only, I mean, people know what the wrong path is and the right path is. And religion is an important feature in it. I've seen a lot of people, in fact, a lot of people that have been convicted for violent offences, and whilst they're in custody, they turn to religion, and it's completely changed their lifestyle. You know, they've just simply focused on the religion, and things have happened which you wouldn't expect or believe, and people sometimes get caught up in the wrong crowd, and it's about identifying your social circle, looking at where you want to be, and you know, you don't have to be educated to be successful. I can say now that South Asians have amazing skills, entrepreneurial skills, you know, business skills, and it's just, you know, enhancing that into the working life. But they need to have opportunities in order for them to get to that stage, and I think that's where politicians and the younger generation need to be able to, you know, work together. But I know that young people are disenfranchised because, as far as they're concerned, all politicians are the same. And you know, unless young people participate in the politics, you're never going to get change. You're never
going on voting and etc.
Important, because you know, if you're not pleased with who is representing your community, who is not in the position to deliver on policy, then how are you going to ever get change if people are just simply doing the same of, you know, not going up to the polling station, just staying at home, especially the young, because they can make the difference in elections. It's enormous. We're probably the youngest community or population in Birmingham, in England. Birmingham has the youngest population. Have a big role to play in politics.
Amazing, man. And what motivational? What motivational quote would you have for anyone out there who wants to become successful? Then would you have any certain quote?
I've got a very particular quote.
Yeah.
Success is a series of failures, one failure after another, without the loss of enthusiasm.
Amazing. So going through the failures and still being positive and keep going and going and going.
Absolutely.
I respect that. And before I finish, because I've got to ask you this, because I said I was going to mention, I just remembered it right now. What would you say in terms of your weight loss? How much did you lose?
I think I was 19 stones at one stage.
And how much are you now?
Down to 14, so 5
14, so
stones.
you lost 5 stone?
Yeah.
That is a lot. How many kg that is?
I don't know off the top of my head, but
it's like 12 stone a kg or something like that, isn't it?
Something like that.
No, 12 kg a stone, not 12 kg. Stone a kg. Yeah, 12 kg a stone, something like that. Or, yeah.
Something.
That's mad. So that's nearly 50, 60, 70 kg.
So I calorie counted. I've been counting calories here. I think I've probably taken in about 3,000 already. So
that's mad. Okay, listen, it's been an absolutely amazing time with you.
Yeah.
I wish we could have kept it even longer, but obviously we don't want to make it too long. We know that you young people, your retention rate isn't the best, is it? Right? Everybody get distracted easily. But listen, it's been amazing, man. I didn't know this much about your life. No. And I love the fact that you're running up for councillor again, because it's true what I said to you guys, and I repeat that again. You know, most people like who run for these kind of positions are just doing it for the money. You're actually losing out on money, and what I meant by that was because it takes time away from being a barrister. So now you're obviously going to be a councillor, so it's a bit different. So guys, you know, when is the voting?
May the 5th.
May the 5th. My birthday is 4 days after that. On May the 5th, make sure if you're from Aston, you vote for AYOUB gone. Even if you're not from Aston, if you ever see the brother, you know, get in contact. If they need a barrister at some point,
just Google me, you can find me.
Google him, you'll find him. Google ready. Guys, I really appreciate you watching. Do you know how we finish the videos?
No, don't.
Okay, I'll tell you that. So the way we're going to do it is we're going to say Naveed Central, but at the same time, yeah? Okay, so guys, make sure you like the video, comment on the video, share the video. Naveed Central. Peace and love. We're in Afrikana on Ladywood Road, guys. The food is amazing. I'm still eating, but yeah. Naveed Central.